Hey everybody, this is Kelly of Kelly Six Stories, and I'm here to talk to you about a situation where a man had committed a crime against a 4-year-old girl. He had raped her, and it happened to be in Indian Territory in the state of Oklahoma. And the Supreme Court, they made a decision that basically said that nearly over half of the state is considered as Indian Territory. Now, according to the decision, I believe that the state doesn't have jurisdiction to adjudicate a person in Indian Territory. However, the federal government does. And so the Indian tribes, they have their own people, their own tribal courts, and they also have their own police forces to deal with these sort of things, but they also work with the federal government in order to bring people to justice. So a lot of people was fearing that this man was going to get off clean and that he was not going to serve any time for what he did, but instead, more than likely, he probably will. But then there comes other fears that people who's already in prison are going to call for their cases to be repealed and to see if they can be released from prison because of this. But you have experts that say that there was a law that was already on the books that already stated that the rights of Indian tribes and the jurisdiction of Indian tribes, and all the Supreme Court did was just basically, enforce what's already there, which is the Major Crimes Act. So basically, if anybody were to do a felony in the area that's considered as Indian territory or Indian land, that person will be tried by the federal government, by a federal court instead of state court. Okay, so I'm going to have some clips so you guys can hear about what people are saying about this. And let me know, did you know about this? Did you not know about this? What do you think about this? Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm out.
There.
Hi, Judy. So I just want to state that what this ruling does is affirm what tribal citizens have known and upheld the law, the nation's highest law, is in that these treaties must be honored, and that the the Muskogee Creek Nation's reservation was never dissolved. So in terms of what it's going to change, it's not really going to change anything. It already upholds what citizens of Oklahoma and citizens of the 5 tribes have already known.
So what about, just at the very basic level, what about in terms of criminal law? The fact that the man who had been convicted of child abuse, molesting a child, he had been tried in state court. Is his case or other cases now going to have to go back and be tried in federal courts?
It's my understanding that in terms of post-conviction relief, there are rules to follow and a timeline that also must be followed. This ruling doesn't change any of those procedural requirements. This notion that hundreds of people being released from prison is ridiculous. There's really no reporting or no basis in that. What it's going to do is it basically just reaffirms the Major Crimes Act, which is that when an Indian person commits a felony crime on reservation or Indian land, that person is subject to federal law, federal court, not state court.
And so
applied to a convicted child rapist, a Native American who was tried and convicted in state court for some very heinous acts against a 4-year-old girl. More broadly, it involved whether the Creek Nation's reservation, the historical reservation that the Creeks were given when they were forcibly relocated to Oklahoma after the 1830s, actually was still in existence, whether it was ever officially dissolved by Congress, by the federal government. And the court ruled today in a narrow decision 5-4 that the Creek Reservation still exists, that it never was officially disestablished by Congress, and so this child rapist Jim C. McGirt, was improperly tried in state court, should have been tried in federal court because his crime was committed within this historical Creek Nation.
A couple of things to unpack there, and you can see the Indian Territory behind me right there that Chris is referring to. You mentioned Jim C. McGirt. Is it too early to say what happens now on that case with him?
His conviction was overturned, as was the conviction of a death row inmate, Patrick Murphy, convicted, I believe, for a murder in 1999, whose case had gone to the court previously, but they deadlocked on it. So actually, hundreds of cases were technically overturned today by this. Any major crime involving a Native American on Indian land, on what was once Indian land, was essentially overturned. If not officially, there will likely be hundreds of inmates that come forward now with new appeals.